I've spent the last couple of weeks hard at work, farming, writing down and calculating every farm in the game and what they should be used for, and that along with watching and talking to some of the top D4 creators out there. And in this video, we'll cover all of it. We'll walk our way through all the important materials and gear in the game and slap the shit out of it with Smith style and the best way to obtain them. And we'll start with the Mythic Uniques. I already have a complete guide to the Mythics on my channel, so I'll break it down quickly in 3 methods. A nice and friendly version that you can run with your friends for infinite materials, along with 2 Bobby Cow Dick methods for the Giga Chad pumpers that simply does not give a shit. When it comes to the nice and friendly version, this is what you want to do. Bring 3 of your best buddies together and slap on of these tributes into the Undercity Brazier. You then run the Undercity and collect the materials. Use these materials on bosses and you'll earn tributes again. Easy, huh? Yeah, a self-sustained loop. The only downside is that you need gamers to play with. For the next one, it's a method that would make Bobby Cowdick himself proud. I've been using it myself the last couple of seasons, and seeing as people have started talking about it, I may as well just throw it out there. This is buying lower tier mats, killing the Ubers, and selling the more expensive mats. To do this, you'll need Crimson Market and Diablo.trade. Go there, look for the cheapest Malignant Hearts, Living Steel, Distilled Fear, and Bloods. As of this moment, Malignant Hearts are the cheapest, which has a lot to do with him only dropping god-awful shit gear. These prices vary a lot though, but should work as long as this video doesn't pop off, which it probably won't, seeing as I'm not German nor bald. Either way, just keep an eye out on the material prices and you should be able to run it infinitely if you find some good ones. And for final Uber tip, we have boosting dogshit newbies, another tip that I've been using to get all the Ubers I need. This season has been a bit rough though, seeing as everyone in the game, including their demented grandmothers, are able to one-shot tier 4 Ubers. But what you would do here is to, instead of selling the Duriel materials, for example, you would boost using them instead. During previous seasons, I've bought an already full Duriel set, brought 3 newbies in, boosted them, and used the gold to buy more materials. But due to previously mentioned reasons, you may make a small gold loss running this unless you find good prices. And losing money makes Bobby Cowdick sad unless the money goes into his pocket. But in short, keep track of the material costs or farm them in a group. And in case you are in need of any unique items, then Ubers are the best way to farm them by a factor of a gazillion. There is a boss loot table and you can just Control F whatever item you need and go find it. Link in the description along with everything else. Next up, we have Paragon Experience. This is both an easy and a hard one. It's easy because you want to farm Paragon points in the pit. But at the same time, the experience you gain from the pit increases as the pit level increases. So if all you can run is newbie tiers, then you may as well just run Infernal Hordes for Paragon Experience. But in an ideal world, you would run a pit level at least above 90 or 100. The most important thing here is to be fast as fuckboy, because the monster health increases way faster than the additional Paragon Experience does. So to farm, you need to find a pit level that you can run in around 2 minutes or so and just blast through it fast as hell. For the Cringeborn, the Horimbe build is simply goated for this. And like in every goddamn aspect of this game, you preferably do it in a group, as you can then split up and save a bunch of time. And just as an example, going from a pit 101 to a pit 121 was for me a difference of going from 12.8 million experience per run to 15 million per run, which is a 17% increase. But the life of the enemies are multiplied by a factor of 20 or so, which is just bonkers. So in short, I'd aim for a clear speed of around 2 minutes or 3 minutes if you're playing a sloth build. If you can go higher in tiers without losing speed, then you should do it. If you're sacrificing more than a few percent in time going up 10 tiers, then it's not worth it because you're also losing out on a shit ton of loot, and you're still getting the same glyph experience, at least above tier 100. Now, there are also 3 consumables that you absolutely must have here to maximize your experience, and they need to be active at all times: an elixir, an opal, and an incense. It doesn't matter which elixir or incense you use, as long as they are of highest quality. You can also have several incenses on, but you will only get the experience bonus from one of them. When it comes to the opals, you can use whichever one you want, and there is one that I prefer slightly above the others, and that is the equipment one, due to the massive loot orgasm you typically get at the end of each run, which also brings me into the best loot farming methods. The best for large amounts of loot are the pits. Slap on the opal, along with spending obols after the runs, and you have just massive amounts of loot as long as you blast through the pits quickly. And due to simply large amounts of loot, you should get the ancestrals that you want eventually. And also don't sleep on the bartering system. To use this to the fullest, you need to level up all of your mercenaries to 10. You'll then get access to more loot in the bartering system, and you can just blast these coins right here as they're leveling up after 10. Sadly, most of the loot that these sell is shit though, but 2 or 3 restocks you should see ancestrals that you can purchase. There is, however, a more sophisticated method of farming ancestral gear than all of this, and that is infernal hordes. But not any hordes, but tier 6 hordes. As they're only 6 minutes compared to the tier 10 infernal hordes, they're simply way faster. And if you're not farming mainly for obdusites, then all that you want is the massive chest in the ends for the guaranteed ancestrals. Just be aware, you need 200 ether to open it, and this is not the way to farm obdusites, because tier 6 hordes are shit for that. And in case you're out of infernal compasses, just slap on a seething opal of torment and you will be drowning in them. And now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, damn Pera, this gear farming sounds rough. I'm not getting shit, and everyone is running around in quadruple GA gear. Well, then I'd also like to mention that this is the worst season so far when it comes to duping and exploits. The trading websites are filled with thousands of duped 4 GA items, and hell, even streamers were running around in Undercity with duped tributes and obdusites. It is what it is, and unfortunately, if you want a quick fix to get decked out in the best gear, then you need to whip out that credit card and start swiping. And speaking of obdusites, what is the best way to farm them if not the infernal hordes? Well, shit, the infernal hordes, of course, but not tier 6, rather tier 8 and 10. And again, another way in which groups are heavily favored, seeing as you'll run out of these fairly quickly and can't craft them this season for some goddamn reason. Now, this farming method is only better than nightmare dungeons if you do one thing first though, and that is choosing the correct boons and build. Preferably, feel like I'm just repeating myself, you'll get a good group together here as well, because then you can deal with different corners of the hordes and get just way more ether. In any way though, boons are the most important. There is a tier list from Makuna in the description, but in short, you go for anything that says Summon Hellborn or Hellborn grants more ether. This, along with chance to spawn double the elites, are the god tier of infernal horde farming. We then have the mid options that are ether fiends, grants more ether along with spawning ether events faster. The rest are mainly dog shit, but the ultra dog shit ones are truly the spires and spawning ether lords. Avoid them at all cost because they will brick your
What's
run.
that?
And if you like nightmare dungeons, then by all means run them. They are similar or slightly weaker than that of a tier 8 horde, depending on how fast you run them when it comes to obdusites. But they also provide you with a bunch of materials and loot, so that's good as well. And if you're lucky, you can get experience shrines or events in there, granting you some lovely boosts to your paragons. Personally, I'm pretty sick of running them after 6 seasons though, so I've only been running them this season for testing the Abducet farms basically. Alright friends, that's the Abducets. Let's keep going with the materials and look for raw hides and iron chunks, because these have been the biggest bottleneck in this season so far for pretty much everyone. All the other materials here, you can basically just hover over them, see where they are found and farm them if you need, but most of them are found automatically. So, raw hides and iron chunks. First tip I have is to run the material opals. It's an easy way of boosting your raw hides and chunks, and if you got this one while killing the Realm Walker, for example, then you should get upwards of a few hundred of them. And this is a big one. You always, and I truly mean always, want to have an opal active, because the 15% experience bonus along with whatever bonus you choose is actually godly. But the best way to farm these materials is, yep, you guessed it, we're heading back to the Uber bosses. Yikers. If someone from Blizz is listening, please for the love of God let us leave this gaping asshole to play something else. Oh well, hop back in I guess. The reason this is so insane for rawhide and iron chunk farming is twofold. 1. Blizz buffed the drop rate from auto-salvaged items massively, and the Uber bosses got the biggest win from this, raking in about 100 materials per kill or so. And secondly, due to the massive amounts of loot you get. Ancestrals grants more rawhide and iron chunks, and unique ancestrals in particular along with mythics. The difference is truly massive. Other than that though, whispers are decent as well, but nothing really gets close to farming Ubers. And in the next episode of Uber Bosses are the only thing I've been running the last week. We have gold farming. Because Uber bosses drop uniques, and uniques sell for a shit ton of gold. Roughly 200,000 per item to the vendor, and good uniques sell for crazy amounts on the trading websites. Especially the Rod of Kepaliki, Banished Lords, or any broken Cringeborn item. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but if you want to make gold in this game, then you have to trade. And you have to do it on a third-party website. Personally, I go with Crimson Market first because their website is the easiest and fastest to use. You just copy-paste the items either via their app or on the website. And if it doesn't get sold, I try to do the same on Diablo.trade, punch a hole in my monitor when it doesn't work and input it manually. But I'm not just going to go out and tell you, yeah, just trade. Rather, here are some items to look for. Because for the dogshit newbies, which let's be honest, you probably are, trading can be a scary place. Lots of scammers, dupers, and people trying to undercut your items by 90% of its value. So here is a simple strategy to see what actually has value. Go and look at previous listings to see roughly what the value is, then just put it out slightly below that price. This is the easiest way, but to optimize it further, you can also just put your item for 0 gold and see what offers you get. When you then understand its actual value, you post it slightly above that and just wait. If you can wait long enough, then you will definitely gain more gold.
I mean, it's alright, like...
But you also need to know that your item ain't dog shit to start with as you're browsing through inventory after inventory in-game. So, how does one go about doing that? Well, shit. Just get a rough understanding all the top builds. If you play a Cringeborn, go to the top builds and see what items they have in their planners and what stats they're using. Rather easy this season, seeing as everyone is rocking the same goddamn build, but still. Do this for a few minutes and you know roughly what items to throw in the trash and what to keep. Another fun way to farm gold this season is to farm runes. I've seen some people doing this, but it's actually quite fun as you'll do it in the Undercity, which is just a lovely place to be in. Pretty much every rune you get is able to sell due to them being needed to craft Ubers, and people will always need these this season. So it's a stable farm, and there's not a whole lot of people farming them. and the lower tier you run the Undercity in, the lower the quality of the runes should be. So you can actually target farm yellows and blues more easily in the lower tiers, making it an excellent place to farm when you're just getting a character started, for example. You then just slap a tribute of harmony in, preferably with a few friends you can rotate, and start pumping. I found all of my tributes pretty much from the pit, so that's a solid way to obtain them. And finally, the two true Bobby Cowdick methods of farming gold: boosting newbies and flipping items. The latter, you simply just buy something cheap and sell expensive. Or stream, get items for free and sell expensive. Whatever you like to call it, am I right, folks? Yeah, give me gold, you fuckers. Anyhow, boosting newbies needs a bit of an explanation. Because now, you probably think, oh, but my gear ain't that great. I can only farm tier 4 or whatever. And that my friends may actually be enough, because it just so happens that you can indeed boost infernal hordes, and I've been doing it for roughly 100 meal per run. Of course, you need to pop off and actually blast for people to want to join you, but if you do, then it's not hard to do. If you're decked out in duped gear, however, then you may as well just boost pit 120s or something, or even pit 150s if you're a pumper. Alright friends, that's a quick one on the best ways to farm this season. If you've got some additional tips, drop them in the comments, and I'll see you there.